Oh crap!
Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from ASTeamKilo23, here to bring you another episode of Inside the Mechbox, sponsored by airsplat.com. Now, one of the most popular spring sniper rifles out there right now for new players and advanced players alike is the Utg L96. This guy. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to install this, the Utg upgrade kit for the L96. It's a really popular upgrade kit and it's very inexpensive. For only about $39 at airsplat.com, you're getting a great deal for everything that comes with this. Now, this kit right here is going to come with three things: an aluminum piston, an aluminum bearing spring guide, and a spring that has about the same power as an M170 spring. So right now, let's go outside, test out the capabilities of the stock L96. Then we're going to come back inside, get down on the workbench, and install the Utg L96 upgrade kit. Then we're going to go back outside and check out what the capabilities of this thing with the kit are. Alright, we're out here at the Evergreen Airsoft site. Now let's test the Utg L96 stock with 0.3 gram rounds. Alright, now let's see what the range and accuracy is of the Utg L96 stock. I'm going to be shooting at that 8-foot stump just over my shoulder here. Let's check it out. Now, the stump is about 8 feet tall, so you can kind of get an idea that it's about the size of a massive, massive person. So it's about 250 feet away. Let's see how accurately we can hit this massive stump. Direct hit in the center. Hit in the upper right. Hit in the upper right again. Alright, we just saw the stock performance of the Utg L96. Let's go get down on the workbench and install the Utg L96 upgrade kit. So when you first got your Utg L96, it should have come in two sections, the main body and the barrel and bolt assembly. What you want to do to start with is disassemble the gun to that point. Just unscrew the two large hex screws, and you should have your gun down to the barrel and bolt assembly. That's where we'll start today. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the piston lock from the gun. That is this little guy right here. It's basically a peg that holds your bolt assembly in place when you're pulling it back. Just pull that out. Now, when you're reinstalling it, remember, a little large notch here is going to go toward the trigger. Next, you'll want to remove the trigger box. That's held on by two fillet head screws, one on the front and one on the back. You can go ahead and unscrew those using a fillet head screwdriver. Once your trigger box is off of your bolt assembly, you can set that aside. You're not going to need it for now. Just make sure you don't lose any parts. Now all you need to do is remove the bolt from your gun. And it's as easy as that. Just lift the bolt handle and retract the bolt and it comes straight out. Now when working on your L96, there is a small pin about right here that sits inside the bolt handle. Make sure you have that pin right there when you're reassembling your gun, or else you won't be able to drop your bolt handle and you won't be able to pull the trigger of your L96. You can make a makeshift one, but it is kind of difficult, so it's really best to keep the original one. The first step to opening the cylinder, or bolt, whichever you like to call it, is removing the cylinder head. You're going to want a pair of needle nose pliers. Now, at the front of the cylinder are two little holes here. You can stick your needle nose pliers in there and unscrew the cylinder head. Now you can remove your piston and spring. Your spring guide is going to be on a small little rod at the end of the bolt. So just take something small, a screwdriver, and push it out. Now before we set the spring guide, spring, and piston aside, let's take a quick look at them. The stock spring is about an M140 or M150 power, so it's going to get you between 450 and 500 feet per second on the UTG model. The spring guide is completely plastic, no bearings. The piston is also plastic and made of the same kind of plastic as the spring guide. It's got a small rubber damper on the front and a pretty thick O-ring. Now as we open the UTG L96 upgrade kit, we can see that everything instead of plastic is aluminum. The piston is pretty much identical, although it is a little thicker at the bottom here, so that helps in durability. It does, like the stock plastic one, have a damper on the front and a pretty thick O-ring. The spring guide has bearings that just float loose at the bottom, and it is one piece of aluminum. The spring is just slightly longer and a little stiffer than the stock spring, so it's about an M160 or M170 power spring. Should get you at least 550 feet per second. Now installing these three parts into your gun is probably the trickiest part of this whole operation. First, take your bearing aluminum spring guide and stick it inside your cylinder. Make sure it lines up with the shaft on here so it can go all the way to the bottom. You might need to take some needle nose pliers and sort of line those up. Your spring guide should be sitting here at the base, about a 1/4 inch from the bottom of the cylinder opening. Now you can take your spring and piston and go ahead and insert those into the gun. Make sure your spring is on the spring guide. If it misses, then well, that's just no good. Now before you replace your cylinder head, you need to grease the piston O-ring. Now I like to use ICS gear grease. Even though it says gear grease, it tends to work well for just about everything. Now this is the trickiest part of the reassembly, putting the cylinder head back on. You can kind of line it up here, push it on, and turn it until it threads a little bit, then you can re-screw it back in the rest of the way. Now make sure you use needle nose pliers to get it pretty tight in there. Make sure you get a good air seal and no air leak. Reinserting the bolt back into the upper receiver is easy peasy. So make sure your bolt handle is up and slide it into place. Now there are a few tricks to reinstalling your trigger box. First of all, just go ahead and set it on there. But before you install the screws, turn them counterclockwise until they click once. The upper receiver is made of a slightly softer pot metal than usual, so it does have a tendency to strip. Just make sure you don't do that or else your gun could be permanently broken. Finally, reinstall your bolt pin. It may take a little bit of pressure, but it goes in. Now you can go ahead and reinstall the upper receiver and barrel into your body and tighten the two large hex screws. Alright, now with the UTG L96 kit installed, let's test the FPS again with .3s. Alright, we're looking at a good 60 or 70 FPS jump there. That's pretty cool. Shooting around 475 with .3s, so you can add about 80 feet per second to get the average with .2s. So let's see if the kit made any difference with the range and accuracy of this gun. Still using .3s. That's 4 hits in a row. They all hit the stump pretty accurately. Now, shooting upwards of 550 feet per second with twos, this thing is inherently going to be a little more accurate than it was before, shooting about 440, 460 with .2s. Overall, I am noticing a slight increase in accuracy, not so much in range, just accuracy in general. Alright, this kit will probably up your accuracy a little bit, and it'll increase your FPS by quite a bit. So for $39 at airsplat.com, it's a pretty good deal. You can get that and the UTG L96 OD version at airsplat.com. I'm Prodigy from AirSoft Team Kilo23, signing off.